Reading magazines from the 90s like Die Hard Game Fan, I occasionally saw coverage for an extremely weird looking game called Parodius. A shoot-em-up, cute-em-up, celebrating Konami and their IPs. What makes this celebration particularly interesting is how it's all done through a Gradius lens, difficulty and all. Personally, I played very little of the series, so I wouldn't even know where to begin, as quite a few ports and sequels exist. Looking in from out, it can be a little confusing which entry is suitable for newbies. One thing's clear though, it sure is cute. Whether or not Parodius paved the way for this subgenre, it does seem like the poster child. Others like Air Zonk, Harmful Park, and Kyo Flying Squadron fit the bill for cute-em-ups, but where they fail to measure up against Parodius is in its celebration of its entire company's history. Well, have you heard of Game Tengoku Cruising Mix? Remember that game publisher Jalico? They were responsible for classics such as Bases Loaded, Maniac Mansion, and City Connection. Well, Jalico had a few arcade hits too: Formation Z, Momoko 120%, Butusan, Xerion, and Plus Alpha. Although none of these ring a bell for me, the Game Paradise showcases Jalico's history beautifully. Rather than scrolling horizontally like Parodius, Game Paradise is a vertical shooter, giving players a tour of obscure levels, blasting past arcade cabinets and pinball machines, dodging lasers in space, and even blowing up cars in a cool, fast-paced racetrack. I'm certain tons of references are crammed into each level. There's a board that kicks off pitting you against 32-bit alien sprites before transforming into 8-bit demakes. Are they referencing the process of porting an arcade game to the NES? Speaking of 8-bit, did Jalico have JRPGs under their belt too? While feeling random, I really love the creativity on display. Our cast is varied and ranges from cute to pretty darn cool. Pigs, cutesy little girls, and robots? I get a ton of Tekkaman vibes just looking at them. The true standout characters are Homuran from Bases Loaded and Clara from City Connection. An NES game I never understood how to play. Homura is perhaps the best inclusion. He has the ability to strike enemy bullets with a baseball bat, redirecting projectiles. Not only that, apparently, he can do home runs with blunts? I'm pretty sure that's impossible. Either way, it's super fun smashing everything with a bat. City Connection's Clara isn't as bizarre. She's driving, flying her car, launching barrels and missiles. Personally, I dig her design. Additionally, defunct developer Tollplane's Tatsujin is playable. Piloting Tatsujin is of course a cutesy girl. Seriously, are girls and shoot-em-ups like peanut butter and jelly? If you're like me and love having a good old time and old school shooters, I'd say Cruisin' Mix is worth messing around with, even if mostly everything goes over your head like it did for me. If you can, go for the Switch version as all the DLC is packed in, unlike the PlayStation 4 version where you'd have to pay for these characters individually. Can we once again go over my father's hatred for mainstream video game consoles? Super Nintendo, PlayStation, Sega Genesis. He hated them all, sadly. Instead, his love for gaming went into the PC Engine and Neo Geo CD. As a result, I say most of our collection consisted of fighting games. King of Fighters 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, Fatal Fury Special, Fatal Fury 3, Real Bout Special, Real Bout 2, Samurai Showdown 2, Samurai Showdown Special, 3, 4. It doesn't end there. We also had Gangan, Ninja Masters, Galaxy Fight, Double Dragon, Savage Rain, Last Blade 2, Kabuki Clash, World Heroes 2 Jet. Fighting games dominated our home. So much so, it bled into the shoot-em-up genre. How so? With Twinkle Star sprites. Not exactly your typical shooter, Twinkle Star Sprites takes the concept of shoot-em-ups and modifies it to a competitive versus game. Unlike Senko no Ronde, where you pummel each other using bullet hell movesets, here, two players face off by surviving traditional-ish on-rail level structures, dodging bullets, destroying enemy fodder, even taking on giant bosses. At first glance, it's weird making out what's happening due to this split screen thing on display, but it's pretty simple. Ultimately, the goal is to survive what's thrown in your direction, or side, like a competitive puzzle game. And much like a puzzler, difficulty is dictated by an opposing player's performance mid-match. One sure way to crank it up is by forming chains, or storing power gauges to level 2 or 3, resulting in spawning familiar-esque creatures on the other side. By creatures, I mean cute, adorable mascots mirroring your avatar. Seriously, even the boss can get a big ol' hug. Did I mention this is a cute-em-up? I'm sure you already knew just by looking. Though I'll say most puzzle games tend to have a cute factor baked in. Puzzle Bobble, Puyo Pop, especially Panel the Pawn are prime examples. Like Panel the Pawn, designs are filled with a magical girl theme. I mean it. Our heroine even transforms into not Sailor Moon. Sure, maybe this art style isn't for everyone, but gameplay is just so much fun. A lot of Twinkle Star Sprite's roster is a blast to use. Charge attacks widely vary between everyone. Beams, flamethrowers, rocket punches. Tinkering with this cast, I'm certain you'll find at least one fun character to use. Twinkle Star Sprites was a popular game among my family and friends. To think a hidden gem like this would stand tall alongside giants like King of Fighters says a lot. Even for those not into shooters, I personally believe the puzzler element will bring them in. Ever think of a console and instantly you're brought back to that wonderful time where that system shined bright? For me, the mid to late 90s wasn't dedicated just to PS1 or Neo Geo. My sister had a Sega Saturn. Saying I played it is an understatement. Some of my favorite games are on that console. Darius Gaiden's a big one, the closest thing to shooting perfection in my eyes. Shining Force 3 is another favorite. I'd argue one of the best tactical RPGs of all time. A shoot 'em up fan favorite is Galactic Attack, aka Ray Force, or Layer Section. Seriously, what's with all these different names? What a game though. I could make an entire video on the Ray trilogy. Something about shooting enemies way over in the back somewhere is really cool. I'm not sure what's more satisfying, locking on or firing away. Galactic Attack wasn't the first to do it nor the last. Yet for me, it was a pretty unique mechanic. During the same console generation, an awesome Japan-only shooter came out and kinda did the same. I'm talking about Sogyuku Rentai. Simply titled Terra Diver, it's quite different than Taito's initial Ray entry. For starters, Galactic Attack and Terra Diver are 2D, but the latter of the two has dynamic camera angles, which is ambitious considering Terra Diver is not fully polygonal like Ray Storm or Ray Crisis. In fact, I can't even say if this is traditional sprite work. Ships have that pole star or viewpoint look. Defeating bosses, changing enemy phases, shifting planes, the camera truly works wonders in all its 32-bit glory. If you played Xenogears on PlayStation, zooms are pretty comparable. Backdrops are nice, from cityscapes to odd planets, I think? Honestly, I don't know what you're visiting here. It seems to be across the solar system. From one space station to a Mad Max-like world, you won't see the same theme twice. Locking on to enemies is fun, if not limited. You'll have the option of switching between two lock-on modes. One hones in on enemies directly in front of you, while the other targets around your ship. Releasing the lock will unleash lasers directly at enemies. I'd say Terra Diver isn't built around this mechanic. Rather, it's more supplemental. Where Galactic Attack really played with the idea of foreground and background through stages, standard enemy encounters, and bosses, highlighting the use of lock-on. Here, it's just another tool for battle. Any Final Fantasy fans watching this? Legendary composer Hitoshi Sakimoto worked on spin-off title Tactics and mainline entry 12. I specifically recall playing Terra Diver for the first time, hearing tracks that sounded lifted directly from Final Fantasy Tactics. I found out Hitoshi Sakimoto also composed the soundtrack for the great Radiant Silvergun. Overall, Terra Diver is a good time. I'd say if you want to play it with ease, check out the PlayStation port, but if you want a superior experience, the Saturn version is where you should be playing.